This episode of the Restoration Today podcast is brought to you by Surety. Surety is the third-party fund control company founded by those who understand the entire restoration industry, especially the paying contractor's experience just trying to get paid. Surety establishes payment rails from insurance carriers to restoration contractors, protecting property owners and every party from risk using 3D geospatial scan technology. If you want to reduce your debt, free up your admin staff, and improve the experience of your clients, book a demo with Surety today. Hello there. Thanks for checking out this episode of the Restoration Today podcast. Today, I'm excited to be joined by a dear friend, Jeff Jones. He is a certified bioforensic restoration specialist. He is also the CEO and a founding member of BioSheen Services of Oklahoma City. Jeff, I am very excited to have you here. Jeff and I did a podcast in very early 2020 as COVID was kind of coming around and people were kind of starting to talk about it before it really blew up in the US. And Jeff knows his stuff when it comes to biohazards that are going on in the world. I'm not sure even the right word to use for that, but anyway, I'm excited to have Jeff here today. We are talking about monkeypox and what that means. Is kind of a growing thing, a term that we're hearing in the US. There are more and more cases growing every single day. So that is what we are here to talk about. Jeff, thank you very much for joining me. Let's start by having you kind of introduce yourself and share a little bit about your background in the forensic arena for people that aren't familiar with you.
Well, I've been in the cleaning and restoration industry now for close to 55 years. I've been doing forensic restoration now for over 50 years. I actually remediated my first forensic restoration project with my father, which was a self-cessation, a suicide via firearm when I was 12 years old. And you know, some people are like, oh, your dad made you go on that? No, not at all. You know, I had to beg him to let me go. And the reasons that I got to go on that were, one, I spent my summers on a farm, so I understood the cycle of life. If we were going to have chicken on Sunday, you had to catch them on Saturday. Two, my father had already seen this site and nobody was there. But the big reason I got to go was my mom was out of town. And so my dad told me, you know, if you tell your mom, I will wear your butt out. And this is like 1971, and he meant that. So corporal punishment wasn't judged, it was graded, and my dad got an A. So we didn't talk about that for years. You know, you mentioned the interview that we did on COVID-19. That was the second week when we did the interview. It aired 2 weeks later, but we did that in January of 2020. And I specifically remember at that time that we were talking about it, there were 2.5 cases in the United States. Two in Washington in a nursing home. And I say 0.5 because the one in Chicago had not been declared positive yet. And we said in that interview that this was going to be, it was a fast mover and it was going to be a global pandemic. And what happened?
It was exactly that.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So, you know, kudos to you for being on the cutting edge of what's going on in the world of microbial warfare.
Microbial warfare, that's a much better way of putting it than I'm like pathogens, bacteria. I don't know what to even call all of the things that happen in this realm. Okay,
Listen, anytime that we're talking about potentially deadly pathogens and viruses and bacteria, we're seriously, this is not a spot on the carpet or somebody's tub overflowed. Yeah. This is life-threatening. And this is microbial warfare.
Yes. Okay, so let's set the stage and have you explain to people who have not, you know, I think something funny happened with COVID where we got so tired of hearing about it that people just blocked out everything related to anything like that at all. If there's another pandemic of any kind, I don't want to hear about it. Like people just kind of tunnel vision themselves. Like, I don't want to even. So I think that that's happening a little bit with monkeypox, where people maybe aren't as up to date or aware of it as we were with COVID-19, because it was such a new kind of scary thing as it was growing. So what is monkeypox?
Monkeypox is an orthorheios virus, and it is a cousin to chickenpox, and its more deadly cousin, smallpox, which has killed millions throughout history. Monkeypox was first identified in a colony of monkeys in Copenhagen, Denmark in 1958. However, the name can be, a misnomer.
Yeah.
Because monkeys and humans are just the incidental host of this disease, which is thought to be primarily the reservoir is rodents. But think about this, it was rodents that carried the plague, the bubonic plague, the Black Death into Europe. So rodents have been transmitting things throughout the history of man. And a couple of years ago, they found bubonic plague on fleas on a squirrel in Denver. So nature's constantly plotting our demise, and we have to be ready to combat that. This current outbreak appears to be spreading mainly among men that have sex with other men. They call that MSM.
Okay. Okay. And what about beyond that? How is it transmitting beyond that?
Great question. Unlike chicken pox or smallpox, which are airborne in transmission, this is transmitted through contact primarily, skin to skin transmission. Can you still get it if someone is directly in your face and spews saliva? Absolutely, that you can. But the primary mode of transmission is contact. Now, anyone is at risk with skin to skin contact because this can survive on surfaces for 20 days. And under optimal conditions, this can survive for months. Now, anytime that someone has a pox, whether it's chicken pox or smallpox, you develop these sores throughout your body and these scab over. These scabs that fall off are highly contagious. And so, Sun Tzu said in his book, The Art of War, if you know not yourself and not the enemy, you're a fool and you'll face 1,000 defeats on the battlefield. If you know yourself and not the enemy, you'll face defeat half the time on the battlefield. If you know yourself and you know the enemy, you need not fear 1,000 battles. So let's take a look at this from the form of forensic operators, and especially from the Microbial Warrior system of forensic restoration, which is a tactical system of strategy for dealing with not only direct biological contaminants, but infectious agents also. So when we start down that road as forensic restoration specialists, I cannot drive this home enough. The prime directive is safety. Safety cannot, shall not, will not be violated. And that means not only the safety for the team of forensic operators that are doing the remediation project, but safety for all future occupants. Mm-hmm. The objectives, when we set out, if we were to get a call on a micro environment that's been contaminated, and there's already been a daycare center that was contaminated in Illinois. And so if we get a call, and after the acquisition of critical incident data, who, what, where, when, how, we have to establish what are our objectives when going out to remediate an infectious agent. And our objectives are threefold. We want to contain, control, and eradicate. Again, threefold objectives: contain, control, and eradicate. When we go to contain, the first things that we need to do are establish our operation zone, our transition zone, and our clear zone. Notice that last one, I did not say the old school verbiage for that was the clean zone. Cleaning is the removal of soil, both visible and invisible. Forensic cleaning is the removal of pathogens and biological contaminants, both visible and invisible, to prepare surfaces, both vertical and horizontal. And that last zone right there, I didn't clean it, you didn't clean it. It's just clear of all of this infectious agent or biological contaminants. When we want to control this, any forensic restoration project, whether it's a biorisk level 1 through a 5, our three major components on that are going to be structure, contents, and indoor air quality. Let me say something about contents. Monkeypox, it has been shown to live on textiles for days, and days. And people have gotten contaminated through the misappropriation of handling textiles. There was a nurse in a hospital that contracted it just changing sheets from a patient, and she was wearing gloves. So what does that tell us? That probably her doffing, her removal of her gloves, her procedure was suspect on that. So where do we really have to pay attention? Is it dawning? Yeah, you want to go through the numbers. Doffing, you want to be extra careful after being in a contaminated environment. So structure, contents, indoor air quality, how will those be addressed? Indoor air quality, it's suggested to use an air scrubber with a pre-filter because they're out there that'll capture and inactivate. I did not say kill because you cannot kill a virus. It's not a living organism. There are air scrubbers out there that will capture and inactivate up to 95.5% of enveloped viruses. And that is exactly what monkeypox is. It's an enveloped virus. So it's on down the food chain. We start with enveloped viruses, gram-positive bacteria, gram-negative bacteria, non-enveloped viruses, mycobacteria such as tuberculosis, and then we go into bacterial spores. A common one would be C. diff, and those are tough to negotiate. C. diff is a gram-positive bacteria that starts in the intestinal tract, but leaves behind some very hardy spores, which can remain contagious for months.
Mm-hmm. So what is the difference between, I feel like the first time restorers and remediators faced cleaning for a pathogen was with COVID-19, but the cleaning for that was different, I believe, than cleaning for this. I know that we're cleaners as a trade. Like that is what we are. We are cleaners first before we're restorers, before we're rebuilding, before we're remediators. We're cleaners first, but cleaning for an illness. This was our first time around really cleaning for a big illness. So how does cleaning for this differ than how restorers were cleaning for COVID?
Okay, that's a great question. And one of the problems that we had during the height of COVID dramas, a lot of people weren't cleaning. Okay. They were buying these products and there were manufacturers manufacturing delivery systems, so-called electrostatic sprayers, and people were buying them up as fast as they could. I saw people that were plumbers that were closing their business, buying vans. They couldn't spell virus 9 months before that. And all of a sudden, these people were COVID experts from taking some course online. COVID-19, though, was primarily an airborne transmission. It didn't live very long on surfaces. This is not, okay? This is not it's skin to skin and contact. This one is hardier and it is living on surfaces. So one of the things that we want to do, the three big things are testing, cleaning, and disinfecting. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if we go into this microenvironment, we want to test this with an ATP to find out what is the hygiene level here. Does an ATP pick up viruses? No, it does not. But it lets us know what the hygiene level is so we can bring that down through proper cleaning. So when we go to apply the proper disinfectant that's rated for this, then we know that disinfectant can do its job because we removed everything that would interfere with that. What's the most common disinfectant on the planet? Sodium hypochlorite, chlorine bleach. So let me name the largest name of chlorine bleach, which is Clorox. If you picked up a bottle of Clorox and read the label, it says clean the affected surface first. Why? So it doesn't have to travel through a viral load or a bacterial load or dirt, so it can do its job more effectively.
Okay. All right. So if this can be transmitted so easily, talk about the PPE that is required. I don't think people were going into COVID cleanups necessarily with full PPE. They perhaps should have, but are we, the level that you would go? Okay. I guess here's a good way to ask this. I know in forensic restoration, you have the different levels, right? You have level 1, 2, 3, 4, I think. Is there beyond that?
5? Yeah, there is a 5. 5 would be mass casualties and WMD's weapons of mass destruction, an act of bioterrorism.
Okay, so where are we on that spectrum when it comes to here's the protocols that you need to follow to appropriately clean this and keep yourself safe and your team safe while properly doing the job?
The introduction of a known infectious agent is known as a biorisk level 4,
Okay.
PPE level 3. That would be microporous suits, external booties, 3 sets of gloves, 2 sets of nitrile gloves, and an exterior glove of a heavier meal. And then my team is going to, and the people that train with us at the Microbial Warrior Academy know that we're going to use cappers, which is a form of PAPR, powered air purifying respirator. That way they're getting filtered air through a HEPA filter, and it's keeping them cool, and they can be more effective. They're staying cool and they can work longer. And so if you're not hot and you're not sweaty, you're focused more. Your mind can only focus on one thing at a time. So if your mind is thinking how miserable you are, you're not really focusing on your project.
Yes. Yes, this is true. What are some of the common misconceptions you're seeing when it comes to monkeypox? I think one of them, which you brought up earlier, I think like the main way that this is transmitted is through sex, like same sex, right? But I think it is beyond that, right? I feel like that is a misconception that, well, if I'm not doing that, I'm not going to get it. Is that true?
Listen, while that continues to be the main mode of transmission, listen, this is what I do. I'm constantly reaching out to sources, acquiring new data. There's a new case now of a woman that got monkeypox on the bottom of her feet from walking on carpet.
Ooh,
Okay. Yes. Yes. So what happened? These scabs have fallen off, and these particles of monkeypox, because the last time I checked, the laws of gravity were strictly enforced in all 50 states, and all 50 states are now contaminated with that. She walked barefoot across the carpet and got that. So let me say something about textiles and when you're cleaning and when you're disinfecting. When we go in and we start our disinfecting process, that's easily established on non-porous items. But when you start getting into textiles, whether it's carpet or upholstery, the EPA has not issued any guidelines on sanitizing and disinfecting textiles. So, I recently had a conversation with who I consider one of the best textile and upholstery guys in the industry, Jim Pemberton. And we talked about it, under the most heroic conditions. We used an upholstered chair as an example, which might be in a hotel room, which I've had a team call and say, we're looking at an infectious room at a hotel, and they want to know, can we save any of the textiles? And Jim and I visited about this, and if you followed every procedure on the planet, and Jim's good, Jim said, I'm going to use my grandfather rule because I'm a grandfather now, Jeff. And he said, would I let my grandchildren play on it? No, absolutely not. And so
it's a good rule.
under those conditions right there, I would simply treat that with an EPA registered hospital grade tuberculocidal disinfectant, wrap it and dispose of it as treated waste.
Okay. So you talked about kind of the spray and pray method that was adopted during COVID. How can we avoid this moving forward? What should cleaners and restorers be doing as they go to select products and decide what cleaning techniques they're using and equipment they're using, along with like the disinfectants and chemicals they're using?
Well, anytime we look at disinfecting, and I'm just going to start with that part right there. That's a 3-prong trident right there. And that consists of, just for a term of endearment, the disinfectant, the bug juice, the delivery system, and then the operator. Okay, so you're not going to go down to your supplier and pick up a jug of something that says approved for monkeypox. It doesn't exist. Okay, what you can do, what the CDC recommends, is go to the EPA Q list for emerging viral pathogens and see what's on that list right there. So now you have a product that's approved. What is going to be your delivery system? If I were going to go in and precondition, this is what I would not do. Do not use ULBs. I own them, ultra low volume sprayers. I've got this one that'll shoot 20 feet, 30 feet across a room. But here's what's going to happen with that. If you walk into a room that's contaminated, a micro environment, and you take that high-powered ULB and you turn that on, what you're going to do is you're going to disrupt the environment and send those particles airborne before they ever have a chance to get wet with your disinfectant. And one of the reasons is it's called a boundary layer. And so if you've ever watched a car commercial and it's in the wind tunnel and they're blowing smoke over the car, so you see the ergonomics, you
Yep.
never see the smoke touch the car. Why?
Yep.
There's a boundary layer. So if we go in with high-powered sprayers, whether a pump up or a ULB, we're going to create a boundary layer and we're just going to send everything airborne. Remember, there's going to be scabs there too, besides the monkeypox virus particles. So at that point right there on preconditioning, that's when that I'm going to be prone to use an electrostatic sprayer, but not all electrostatic sprayers are the same. There's contact charge, and then there's induction charge. And an induction charge electrostatic sprayer has 10 times the charge. So it's going to rush to the surface into those particles and envelope them and get them to adhere to that surface. You know, we're really big on, if I were in like an unsanitary dwelling, like a hoarding house or a crime or loss of life, I like to dry clean things first before I wet clean them. The CDC does not want you to be dry cleaning under these conditions. So we're going to precondition that with either an induction charge electrostatic sprayer, or an alternative would be binary ionization technology. We want to dampen that down and go to work on that. And what I would look for is an EPA registered disinfectant / cleaner. You're going to need a surfactant because I want to foam these surfaces now. This works better on vertical surfaces, so we get that dwell time there. And then we can remove that via mechanical action. That's cleaning. That's the removal of contaminants. Then we can follow up with testing to see, have we got these surfaces down to a better than food grade safe? Single digits, preferably zeros on the ATP. Now we can apply our final disinfectant because it'll do what we want it to do. So the big three are testing, cleaning, disinfecting. This allows us to contain, control, and eradicate a really nasty enveloped virus.
Okay. All right. All right. What else do we need to know? We've covered a lot of my questions here, but I know that you are a wealth of knowledge and have a ton of info that you can share. So what else haven't we covered? What else do cleaners and restorers need to know?
I'll go back and circle back again to safety.
Yeah.
You know, cannot, shall not be violated. The big three on this: testing, cleaning, disinfectant. Choose your delivery system. Choose your disinfectant. Make sure that it's rated on that. And, you know, one of the things I saw during COVID, okay, people just going and doing what I call spraying and praying. Make sure that you're not going into a biological hostile environment and turning it into a hazmat situation by using the wrong disinfectant or the wrong chemical.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We want to be, when I said safety for the team and safety for all future occupants, that means don't leave heavy residuals behind.
What are some of your favorite resources for staying up to date on what's happening with monkeypox? There's obviously many places that people can go to get their information, but if you're doing this as a profession, as a professional cleaner, where are you looking to get your information?
The CDC, and you know what? After over 50 years in this industry, you create relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You know, life is about relationships. There's this old saying, you're 4 people away from the White House. I mean, you know, look at the relationships that I've been blessed with. Like, I know you, you know, I know some of the top people in the industry. The other morning, you know, I'm on the phone at 5 o'clock in the morning because I'm talking to Dr. Carrie Lesage, who is one of the sharpest minds out there in the world of pathogenic and microbial threats. I'm calling her at 5 because she's in Ireland. Okay.
Oh,
So it's 11 o'clock there.
yep.
And so, you've got to do your legwork. You've got to make relationships with good, knowledgeable, honorable people. I heard George W. Bush on a television interview once say, "I'm not that smart." And I was thinking, you were smart enough to get in the White House. But he followed up with that. He goes, "I'm not that smart, so I surround myself with smart people."
Yes.
There's the key right there. I don't
Absolutely.
claim to know everything, but I'm never shy about calling someone and asking them. When all is said and done, I'm just a half-breed cowboy out there trying to make the world a better place.
Anyone who knows you knows you know your stuff. But yes, fair enough. Well, Jeff, thank you very much. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
I do, because, we start talking about nasty infectious agents, we start talking about illness, we start talking about life. Anytime that someone calls a forensic restoration company, okay, the balance in their life has been disturbed. Okay, the Navajo word for that is hozo. So what we really do is we go out and we restore that hozo, that balance, so that once again, people can walk in beauty. And my tip for today is never, ever, I just lost a dear friend, never, ever miss an opportunity to say the most powerful words in the world. And I'll say them. Ayo anina shne. And that in Navajo means, I love you. I love you. Pass it on.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jeff.
For more Restoration Today, visit our website, cnrmagazine.com, or find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts.